Welcome to Changing Your Outlook Default Settings. It's time to make Outlook work for you. We'll offer recommended changes for your Outlook default settings and explain why you should make them. Improve your legal work by learning to access and customize Outlook's interface, install your preferred formatting and organization, and change Outlook's default settings for email, calendar, contacts, and tasks. In this lesson, you'll discover many amazing and useful Outlook features which most users don't even know are there. In this lesson, we'll cover features available for Microsoft Outlook on Windows. Welcome to Changing Your Default Outlook Settings. Today we'll cover formatting settings, spell check before sending, and inbox organization. I'm Ivy Gray from WordRake, and I'm with Baron Henley from Affinity Consulting. Are you ready, Baron?
Ready.
Take it away.
Okay. So default settings for Outlook. In order to get to them, click the File menu, and then down to Options on the left side. And we're going to stay right here. So under General, there's not a lot of earth-shaking stuff in here. You just want to make sure your name and your initials are correct. The Office background is the little glyphs that you can have up in the right-hand corner. You can see that I switched mine from, I think, calligraphy is the default, to no background. Your Office theme affects all of Office, not just Outlook. So if you change these, then it's going to change Word, Outlook, Excel, PowerPoint, and everything. Worth experimenting with, particularly if you want high contrast. The black and the dark gray are going to be high contrast. White gives me a headache, frankly, but colorful is your default. But if you want to play around with that and see what it looks like, you've got a lot of options there. Most of the changes I want to talk about are under Mail. Okay, starting at the top. First of all, right here, always check spelling before sending. Weirdly, that's not checked by default. So you probably, and it doesn't make, when you hit send, you don't have to do anything else, but if it sees a typo in your email, it'll bring it to your attention, and of course you can fix it. Under spelling and autocorrect, these settings are shared with Word. So if you saw our Word class and you made, like, you unchecked ignore words in uppercase, that would have automatically unchecked it for Outlook as well. So that's an easy fix. And if you did the Word, then you've already taken care of those settings here. Scrolling down just a bit, when I get to signatures, this is where you set up, and I think it's common courtesy maybe to have some kind of an identification of who you are at the bottom of your emails. So you can have as many of these as you want, and you can automatically apply them to your emails, new messages, and then a different one on replies forwards. This is particularly important for lawyers because a lot of times they have a disclaimer at the bottom there of, if I send a new email, it says, this is not legal advice. If you're not the intended recipient, I don't know what they say. I never read them, and nobody else does either. But anyway, if you have one of those, do you need to have that on every single email? If you reply to an email, do you need to have your disclaimer at the bottom? I would argue probably not. So you could say, I've got a condensed one that doesn't have a disclaimer, another one that does, and in my case, I just have a logo or not, but you can automatically apply those to your emails. Now, whatever signature you get, you can, of course, switch it before you click send. There's a button inside new emails that allows you to switch that, or surprisingly, let me just show you something real quick. If you right-click on top of a signature, it'll show you your alternative signatures, and you can just click on the one you want to switch to. So I've got my personal emails getting dropped into Outlook. So I have a separate signature for that, but you don't even have to use the button if you don't want to. You can literally just right click on top of it. Stationery and fonts. Okay, I have three. This is the answer to a question I've been asked a lot of times. How do I change the default font for emails? And the answer is right here. Weirdly, they give you three different choices: one for new messages, replies forwards, and plain text. I don't know why you would want those different. I would make them all the same. If anything, the people complain about email text being too small. It's hard to read, particularly if people are reading it on their phone. So if anything, make it a slightly larger font. I don't want to get into a big discussion of fonts, but sans serif fonts are easier to read on a screen than serif fonts. So even if you use a serif font for normal correspondence, like Times New Roman, or Century School Book, or Garamond, or something like that, you might want to still switch to a sans serif font for emails, knowing it's going to be read on a screen.
I
One
should
other,
also point out that this is not the place to make it look like handwriting. So do not use Comic Sans. That was a big trend in the early 2000s and late 90s when we still wanted to make it look like a handwritten letter, but that is no longer standard or acceptable. So please resist any urge to do that.
yes, and this is a piece of correspondence. You got to remember that, and so it should be formatted as such. Now, one last thing. If you've ever received an email that had like a wallpaper on it, a background, all I hear from people is how much they dislike receiving emails with wallpapers because it makes it harder to read, frankly. And people send me emails and go, how do I get rid of the wallpaper that so-and-so always sends me? So that's under themes. And so my advice here is don't be tempted to use a theme. All you're going to do is annoy your readers. And many email servers will interpret this as an HTML attachment, and that will just increase the likelihood that you're going to get intercepted by a spam filter and your intended recipient didn't even know you emailed them in the first place. So keep it at no theme. That's my recommendation for that. Make these the same. If you click on font, it's going to give you a standard font, point size, etc. Just make all three the same. Okay. Now, another thing that people have complained about, and you may notice this, if you click on an email and you read it in the reading pane, by default, Microsoft Outlook will toggle this email as having been read, even though I never opened it. Okay. And that's because if you click on the reading pane button, as I'm moving down here, this little checkbox is checked by default. Mark items as read when viewed in the reading pane for more than 5 seconds. Okay. Who thought that was a good idea? 5 seconds. Anyway, if you uncheck that, then it will not toggle as having been read. In other words, it won't make it not bold unless you double click it or respond to it. So that was something that people complained about. This next one is kind of controversial. These boxes are checked. These are all the ways that Outlook annoys you by informing you that you got yet another email. So I would recommend, like, I lack the discipline not to keep looking at my email when I'm working on something. And when I'm constantly being notified, not only is that disruptive and rude that I'm getting these pop-ups, but I then get distracted and I go check my email, and then you go down the rabbit hole and you lose hours at a time. And don't forget, your brain is wired to do that. Every time when I delete an email, respond to an email, you get a hit of dopamine. And that's your body's chemistry trying to encourage you to keep doing it. And it's hard to stop. So the only way I could stop is to be blissfully unaware that I'm receiving emails. Now, when we do a subsequent class on rules and alerts, we will show you how you can say, I don't want to know when I get an email, except if these certain people send me emails. And you can create a rule that allows you to be notified only when certain people send you emails, but you don't know when everybody else does. So even if you think there's no way I could do that because I have to know when some people send me an email, press pause. I think you can still get away with it. I would recommend at least trying this for a week and see how it goes. I just compartmentalize responding to email, and I don't let it distract me because I don't know they're incoming. I'm sure they're coming in, but I just don't know it unless I'm looking.
If you're one of those people who gets to the office at 7 a.m. hoping to get a jump start on the day, and somehow you still don't start your billable work until noon, chances are it's because you're stuck in email and you're getting all of these notifications. Give yourself a chance to get your head above water and turn off those notifications for 2 weeks and see if it helps you to manage that onslaught. Half the time, they're going to be emails where somebody says, oops, sent the wrong thing or forgot the attachment, etc. And you don't need to waste your energy and your limited bandwidth on those sorts of messages. You can just wait until somebody else gets it right.
Got it. Okay, 2 more checkboxes I'd recommend checking. This first one, open replies forwards in a new window. I think it was in Outlook 365, this got turned off. This has always been a setting. And so by default, when you hit reply to an email, the reply shows up in the reading pane, which to me is not enough real estate. Like I want to see a whole window. There's a little button at the top that says pop out window. And I got real tired of clicking pop out window. So if you want to see, when you double click an email, you want it to open up in a separate window, or if you hit reply, you want it to do that, then you want to check that box. The other one was like, I would open an email, reply to it, and then go do something else. And I'd open another email, reply to it, go do something else. And at the end of the day, I'd have like 37 open email windows at the bottom of my screen. If you check this little box, it just closes them. I know that doesn't seem like a big deal, but I really appreciate the fact that when I reply or forward, it just closes the one, doesn't delete it or anything. It just gets it off the screen. Scrolling down just a bit farther, I do want to switch over to calendar and advanced just to show you a couple more things that you might want to tweak. On calendar, at the top, you know, the differently colored bar across your week view that represents business hours. Well, not everybody's business hours are 9 to 5. So you can switch that to whatever you want it to be. You can expand your work week to include weekends if you have to do that. The default duration for new appointments, a lot of people want to switch this, and in particular, default reminders. You might want to switch that. You'll notice your calendar doesn't show you holidays. I don't know why, but if you click add holidays, it'll put them on there, at least the statutory holidays. Down here, you can switch to a different pastel color if you don't like the baby blue. You got some other ones to choose from. And then down here is one of my favorite settings, because I'm in the Eastern time zone and I have lots of clients in other time zones. It's not like I can't do the math in my head, 2 hours, 3 hours difference. But if you add these in your calendar, it will actually add in another bar, you know, on the left side of your calendar, it has the times, and it'll just add you can add other time zones to that. It used to be you could only add one extra one, and then 365 at some point they added a third. So that's pretty nice. Oh, one other thing in mail I forgot to tell you. All the way down here at the bottom. This is a new checkbox. I super love this. I don't like to have, you'll notice my deleted items, it doesn't have any unread deleted items. Trust me, I've deleted tons and tons of emails I didn't read. I just looked at them and I know they were garbage and I just hit delete. I just can't have unread deleted items for some reason. I used to right click and say, mark them all as read. Then they added this, mark messages as read when deleted. Love that little checkbox. So now when I delete something, whether or not I read it, it marks it as having been read and sticks it in my deleted items. Okay, moving down to advanced. Start Outlook in this folder. You don't have to start in your inbox. Actually, a lot of people would advise you, like people that help you, lawyer coaches and people that help you manage time and task management, that kind of a thing. They'll tell you the worst thing you can do first thing in the morning is jump into your inbox. And guess what I do every morning? I jump in my inbox. Like if I followed their advice and said, when I launch Outlook, I don't want to see my inbox. You can hit browse and you would think this is just showing me email folders. No, you can go to your calendar first or your contacts first. So when you launch Outlook, it could show your calendar and you could see what's going on for the day. Maybe that'd be a better starting point for you.
Is Tasks one of the options?
Is what? Yeah, Tasks is one of the options. It's one of those folders. So you can decide how you want to start.
That's great.
Yeah. Auto archive, I could spend 15 minutes explaining all this, but here's the concept. I can create a separate database for old emails. And I can set up a timed schedule. Like I could say every 7 days, check all of the folders in my folder structure. And if anything is 3 months old or older, take it out and put it in this other database. So if you get yelled at because you've got too many deleted items, you've got too many things in your inbox, and they're saying you're overloading the server and you got to delete stuff, you can't, there's a built-in archival system built in Outlook that will allow you to pull that stuff out, but you can still see it in Outlook. So like I have lots of archives over here and I do it in date ranges, as you can see. So if I click on, you know, the deleted items in my current folder structure, I've got 7,616. If I go to my current archive of deleted items, I have 175,000, but they're all still searchable. So I can still see them, but they're not stored in Exchange. So if, you know, again, there's a lot more to it than that, but under advanced and auto archive settings, you can set up an archival plan and you can even control it by folder over here so that it doesn't have to blanket apply to everything. You can kind of cherry pick which ones you want to archive.
Though we don't recommend using email to collaborate on your documents, there are better ways to do that. If you are a person who emails files back and forth, it's easy for your email folder to become overloaded and to start getting those notifications that you have overloaded the system with your emails. And that's a great use case for auto archive. you can move those files elsewhere, still find them when you need them, but not have them taking up space. So if you are one of those people who uses email as library, then it's a great way to minimize that space.
Yeah, and just so you know, like I have a bunch of archive emails. I have, millions literally, and they're all stored on the C drive of my laptop, all those separate databases. And so I have an online database or an online backup program. I use Carbonite, but I tell it to specifically back those things up. So if my computer crashes, I certainly don't want to lose my archive. So those are being backed up separately. So if you decide to do the auto archive, make sure that little file you've created to hold those archived emails is being backed up somewhere. Down here, if you don't like the little chime that it makes when you're being reminded of something in Outlook, you can do a web search for WAV files. They're like ringtones. You can get whatever. Just browse to it and plug it in. And that is, you've the same thing in Word. You've got customize ribbon and customize the quick access toolbar. And so if you want to change your ribbon or your quick access toolbar, which is mine is right here, then you can make customizations to it here. One last thing, and I'll shut up. The add-ins, if Outlook is glitchy, locking up on you or giving you problems, it's probably some add-in. Every time you install something on your computer, everything seems to want to integrate with Outlook. So you got all these little add-ins running in the background, and they conflict with each other and cause all kinds of problems. So anytime somebody's called me and said, Outlook is glitchy and I have all kinds of problems, all we do is we go into the add-ins and we come down here and click go, and we'd uncheck all these boxes. And then we'd restart Outlook and they go, oh my God, it's so fast. It's not glitchy anymore. Everything's great. Okay, that's because the glitch was being caused by an add-in. Which one was it? Here's how you find out. You add them back in systematically and you use Outlook and you wait to see if it's still stable. And as you can see, I have unchecked several of them that I just don't want running in the background. They were just bogging down Outlook, or they were slowing down when you launch Outlook, it has to load all those add-ins before it shows you your initial screen in Outlook. So the fewer of them that it loads, the better off you're going to be, the faster Outlook will perform.
So I'm a little bit different than from Baron there. I actually like all of my add-ins, and I audit them monthly to see what I'm using and what I'm not using, rather than just peeling them all off at once. One add-in that I like to recommend to everybody to improve the quality of your email is WordRake. It will pop up when you are replying to an email or starting a new email, but it will not be on your ribbon all of the time, getting in the way. It will also encourage you to check your word count, change your grammar settings, and also run spell check. Again, if you've already improved your default settings, then those will be available to you and run automatically. But WordRake will still help you improve the value of your communication.
Yeah, and just to be clear, a lot of times you're installing a program that has nothing to do with email. Like I install a screenshot program. What does that have to do with email? Guess what? It installs an add-in in Outlook. And you're like, I don't even need that. That's the kind of things I'm talking about. If you go look at that list, a lot of times people are like, I have no idea what half this stuff is. If you uncheck it and you determine later you need it, you can always check it back in. But the ones you're going to recognize, like WordRake, is going to be called WordRake, and you'll know what it is. But some of them you're like, what is this thing even coming from? And those might be worth turning off.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Baron. This is great class. This video was created by Ivy Gray from WordRake and Baron Henley from Affinity Consulting, who both trained as lawyers and are now Microsoft Word and Outlook enthusiasts and productivity experts. This video is part of a series. To sign up to receive tech tips and training videos via email, please visit wordrake.com/tech-tips. Take Outlook to the next level. It's time to reject the perception of email as informal and unimportant. If you're conducting business via email, then it matters. So stop settling for Outlook's default offerings that don't work for you. Then go further with WordRake. WordRake editing software helps you send better emails in Microsoft Outlook. Using the familiar track changes style, WordRake will help you edit for clarity and brevity, just like you'd edit a letter in Microsoft Word. If you'd like to learn more, sign up to receive tech tips and training videos at wordrake.com/tech-tips. When you're ready to take your work to the next level, try WordRake. WordRake is clear and concise editing software that will improve your writing while respecting legally operative phrases and key legal content. It's a finely tuned collaborator that will help you satisfy clients, win more business, and do more high-value work. WordRake works in Microsoft Word and Outlook. It goes beyond Microsoft's built-in spelling and grammar checkers to help you reduce legalese and wordy writing. It uses complex, patented algorithms to find useless words, dull phrases, weak lead-ins, cliches, and high-level grammatical problems, then offers suggested edits in line. Your raked document will look just like a smart colleague with an English degree has revised your work using track changes. In 3 simple steps, you'll have a better document or email. Try it today at wordrake.com/trial.